How are we feeling? Are you authors?
Yes.
Are you course developers?
Yes.
Are you digital marketers? Hell yeah. Any particular good little ahas and things over the course of the morning so far? Or actually, let me introduce you to Joy. Remember we've talked about Joy Bowles? I want to show you a film of her. She's so cute. She's such a PhD. She's such an academic. And I'll let you watch. She's so funny.
My name is Dr. Joy Bowles, and I have a business called Essential Oil Education with Dr. Joy. Now, I did the Business by Design course with Maggie Wild starting in 2017, hoping to create an online education business and also to get a book written. And I would like to let you know that I've started and have had an absolutely fabulous year in 2018, creating webinars and doing face-to-face workshops. And I travelled around the world and spoke at conferences. If you are interested in doing a course with Maggie, the main thing that I would say to you is that Maggie provides you with a very clear outline of things that you need to do to actually achieve your goal. And to achieve it, you have to do it.
Hear, hear. Do you hear that? She tells you like it is.
I recommend that the mind training and reprogramming that you need to do in order to get to the next level is something that Maggie's very good at actually doing, and I certainly have experienced myself to be a quite different person than I was before, because I have actually reprogrammed several of the things, self-concepts and limiting beliefs which I had about myself, to allow myself to be Dr. Joy. I mean, who would have thought? A few years ago I wouldn't have even dared such a name. As I apply the information and the strategies that Maggie uses, particularly the online strategy of using the webinars to create the tribe, using the tribe to then sell more product, using the product to then create a book and other products derived from that. That's the strategy which I really have found very useful, because I think you'll enjoy it very much.
Isn't she cute? She's such an academic. That's Joy being so the bubbliest I've ever seen her. Like she's just not many. Well, this is very good. I've really liked the program. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. And for her to have taken on the actual, she fought with me about the brand of Dr. Joy, because her name is actually E. Joy Bowles. Her actual name is Dr. E. Joy Bowles. And she refused to take on the brand of Dr. Joy, because she said, I'm just not a joy person. And I said, I promise you, it's going to work. And when you bring that joy into your work and you bring that joy into your teaching, it's going to change everything. And she loved it when we got through it with the brain training, because I actually take you, when you come up against blocks over the 12 months, we actually take you on those stages, and we actually work with you to get them moved and move on. And when she finally went, well, I am Dr. Joy, aren't I? And I said, yes, Joy, you are. So now she goes, I love it. Oh, I love it a bit. Oops, she's going to play again. Here we go. So we're going to look at digital marketing to grow your business, because what are you? You are a digital marketer. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So there's a little bit of gold you're about to receive as well on top of Annie's stuff, which is fabulous. So we'll look at that. I'll do the actual funnels first, though. The importance of live, that document is enhancing the importance of lives, because it's based on, if you do this structure for a 12-week period, and if you're going to do the program with me, I would recommend, and I would be pushing you to do that whilst we're doing it, and I'll be helping you set up the actual patterns as well that will create that, because it brings action to your social media. It brings interaction. It brings conversations. It brings people to it. And Facebook wants people talking to people. Yeah? So if your posts are just stagnant and they're not getting likes and they're not getting interactions, Facebook doesn't want them on the newsfeed. So your organic reach drops dramatically. Who noticed that over the last 2 years, that their organic reach just went shoom? Yeah? And it's because if your posts aren't bringing people to Facebook and aren't keeping people on Facebook, Facebook doesn't want to show you because you're not keeping people on Facebook. But the minute that your posts start getting interaction, the minute people start having conversations on your posts and start liking you, and you're getting video views and you're getting over that 3% of video, you know, the 3% level where people switch off after so many seconds. Once you're starting to get it, people are watching 50% of your videos, or 75 or 95%. Facebook's going, hey, we like this person. They're keeping people on Facebook longer. And so you get more organic reach. Facebook puts you back on the newsfeed organically. Yeah. So if you're doing a little bit of paid advertising and you're doing a lot of this 12-week strategy, you will actually get a lower cost on your ad spend as well, because you're getting a higher organic reach too. I'm not saying do only one. It's important that there's a balance. But if you add the organic package to it, you will find that you actually get a lower ad spend as well. So your cost per click, etc., goes down. Okay, we'll look at then, we build through the 12-week plan, we actually build the video view audience, and then we retarget the video view audience, because when you go and do a little ad at the end of, say, 2 weeks of running your lives or 4 weeks of running your lives, you can actually target the people who have watched 25% of your ads, of your live videos. You can target people who've watched 50%. You can target people who've watched 75%. You can target people who've watched 95%. And they're already people who are warmed to who you are. Does that make sense? So we'll talk about that live strategy, and I'll talk to you briefly about a LinkedIn strategy that I use as well, and have used very, very successfully, which is a free organic LinkedIn strategy that I use. And this is the little the handout that you'll receive. It's a little 10-page document, and we'll go through that later on. So let's look at marketing funnels. Who feels a little overwhelmed by thinking about marketing funnels? It's like, that's another thing I have to do. Oh my Lord. Well, if you're going to be a digital marketer, you've got to learn to love the funnels. Doesn't mean you have to know how to hook them up. Yeah? That's the who. What you need to do is to know that they need to be hooked up to something, that they need to actually do something, and how they need to work, and the kind of language you need to use on them. So it can be overwhelming if you're not careful. You need to prioritize, okay? Not try to do everything at once. I'm going to show you 4 or 5 different types of funnels, just to give you an idea of the kind of variety that are out there. And this is, only a small smidgen. There are new types of funnels coming out all of the time, but these are ones that I've used very, very successfully. And what I recommend doing is just choose one kind of funnel that you like the look of, that you think it works, for your business, and start with just one. The purpose of a funnel is really to build your list, okay? Some of us are starting with no list at all. Some of us are starting with a small list. Some of us actually have a reasonable list, but it's always important to keep building the momentum, and depends on how big you want to go as to how big a list you need. So that's the purpose of a funnel, to magnetize, to seek out the right people that are suitable to your business, your product, the right people that need your service or your product, and to then filter them through until you get kind of the warmish ones up here, then you get the warmer ones, and then you get the hot ones down below who are ready to purchase now. And that's the purpose of a funnel, to kind of then filter it down. And like Sheni said this morning, you don't ignore the ones that didn't click through, you then retarget those. You know that they're your warm audience. You know that these are your quite mediocre warm audience, and you know that these are your hot audiences, and you know who to target. And that we need to start, if you're going to do a book, we need to start building that audience very quickly. So I would say to you, whether you're doing my Done For You program or not, I would say to you, when you leave here today, start using this 12-week formula, because you need to start building your audience now before you even think about putting the first words to your book. Yeah? When you start getting very clear on who you're targeting, and then start building that audience organically, you may find you'll have a couple of hundred, even a couple of thousand of people that are warm to hot on your list by the time you go to actually put your first lead magnet out. Isn't that better than putting it out to a cold audience who don't know who you are, don't like you, know nothing about you, see no value in you, and you have to educate them to do that? Yeah, absolutely. And if you can put your first lead magnet out to an audience who's already seen your videos who are already kind of thinking, who is this guy? Who is this chick? I saw them last week. What were they saying? Oh, that's right. They said something about, that interested me. Yeah. Then you're already moving towards a hotter audience who are ready to buy. And it's a process, yeah, to get to a point where you are actually ready to then launch your product with an existing list that is warm and ready, okay? So these are some of my favorites, some that have actually worked extremely well for me. I don't know whether I put in one that was a bit of a disaster or not. I think I wanted to put one in to show you that not all funnels work, but I'll remember what they are when I put them in. I can't remember. This one worked amazingly. Oh my God, this was so cool. So this was just a PDF lead magnet, okay? So it was a PDF report, and it was the essential language pattern to enhance relaxation and trance. So who do we think it's targeting? It's actually targeting hypnotherapists or meditation practitioners or practitioners who use trance-based work, yeah? And we actually targeted in the advertisement very specifically those kinds of people. So they were practitioners in a modality that used trance work, yeah? Or meditation or mindfulness, all of that kind of stuff. What we ended up having, and I only targeted that particular very small niche, we ended up having psychologists, counselors, acupuncturists, lots and lots of Bowen therapists, lots of other practitioners who actually downloaded this. We ended up having something like 8,000 people who downloaded this in the first campaign. Yeah. And that was combined. I did majority on Facebook. I also did a split test on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn was the same. It was just instant. They just loved it, okay? So it was just a PDF. They put in their name and their email address, and it looks innocent enough, doesn't it? Just a little PDF. Oh, I'll have that. And the quality was really good. I got amazing feedback. People will actually ring me. And they were genuinely a list of hypnotic embedded commands that I had learned over the 20 odd years that I'd been working in the industry. And I had a list of about 500 of them. And I just went through that list and I found my top 33 and I put that into a PDF and people just loved it. It was one of the best. And I did this campaign a number of times and it worked every time. What they then did is went through to a landing page. Well, that was the top of the landing page. Okay, so that was above the fold. Do you understand the terminology of above the fold? So when you first open up, you click through to from the ad or from the campaign, and it opens up into a landing page. It's whatever you see on the screen. That is called above the fold. If they have to scroll down, it's below the fold. Does that make sense? So it's important to have exactly what you're offering, exactly some sort of either image or video. So you would have either an image or a video on the landing page, informing them about what you're actually offering, confirming what the ad actually said or confirming what your post actually said. So it has to flow through. And then on the right side, you've got information about what they're actually getting. And the yes, give me this has to be above the fold. The first time they see it, it's important to have that above the fold as well. Okay, so in your design work, what you're looking for is asking for your designers to ensure that when it's first opened up on all devices, that's what they see. Different versions of it, obviously, for mobile and things as well. So if they scroll down, it then goes to my credibility. So it's looking at TV campaigns, things like that. So subliminally, it's showing the credibility of who I am, about me, about why I've written this PDF and what I'm giving it away. It scrolls down further and talks about more about them and talks, et cetera, and then yes, give me my free list again. Have I said opt in? Have I said register here? I prefer saying yes. Yeah, the first thing I want them to see is yes, and then it's give me this. So it's about what they're getting rather than I'm saying give me your name and email address. If it's register here or give me your details or whatever it is, then it feels like I'm pushing them or bullying them in some way. Whereas it's, yes, give it to me, then they feel like they're getting something. So once they actually clicked, yes, give me my free list, they received an immediate download and a message to say that it was also being sent to their email list. And it went through to what's called a sales letter. And this is a long form sales letter. It actually scrolls down about 4 or 5 pages, and it takes them on a journey for how I burnt out in practice, and the story that I've told you today. So this was the original sales for this program today. This is how I sold it originally. So I sold it through a lead magnet into a conversation with me. So they scrolled this letter all the way down. It talked through the journey. It said, I'm now seeking 10 practitioners who I can take on a journey to achieve this too. Are you interested? And Dr. Joy Bowles, who is not a hypnotherapist, she is not a meditation teacher or anything like that at all, saw this, it resonated with her, and she came from this marketing funnel. Does that make sense? How cool is that? So just because you're targeting a specific area doesn't always mean that that's what you get. Same as Dr. Olga Lavelle. She responded to this advertisement originally, and she's a psychologist. I didn't target psychologists back then. Katina is a counsellor. I didn't target specifically counsellors, but she's a social worker. And what she had on social media was that she was a social worker. She didn't have a job title as counsellor. But somehow Facebook showed her that ad too, because there were some interests involved that all of them had that were similar somewhere, and they all got to see the advertisement. Okay? And so then they would click through to actually register for a conversation. So they had to go through a form where they pre-applied. So they had to put about their business, they had to put what their current income was. So they were pre-qualified for a conversation with me. And then we would have a conversation on the phone, and they would decide, and we would decide whether we were a fit for each other from there. So that was the first time I ever sold this, and this was back in 2016, I think it was, or 15. I think it was 15 when it was first done. And then Joy joined this in the second level of that funnel. So she joined the following 6 months later, I think it was, when I did it again. And then it went to, once they'd actually registered filled in their application form, it went to a thank you page just saying, yep, the form has been submitted. A member of Maggie's team will be in touch very shortly to book your private session. Does that make sense? Yeah. Guess what I prefer? I actually prefer teaching it like this. I get much more fun out of it, yeah? Just receiving unknown people and a phone call from them that I know nothing about, and I haven't even got to meet them and understand and get to feel who they are and whether I want to work with them. When I did it this way, I had incredible success. I think we had the first campaign we did, we had a $2,000 ad spend, and we sold within, I think it was about 13 people on it. Within probably 6 weeks, we had 13 people on the program. So it was an incredible return on investment, but there were also 3 people that signed up for it that I didn't want to work with. And it was a very hard slog for 12 months with those 3 people. And it became very, very painful 12 months. Yep. They still achieved what they needed to achieve, but it wasn't an enjoyable experience for me, and I didn't want to work like that. And so I started looking at alternative ways to be able to work with people that I kind of knew them first. Does that make sense? Yeah. And it makes for a much more enjoyable business, I can tell you. Alrighty, this is actually a webinar campaign, a webinar funnel we did, so it was just a straight still ad. Prior to this, you'll see on the 12-week program that I'll give you with the live organic reach document you're about to receive. Prior to this, I did 4 or 5 weeks of 2 lives a week on my business page talking about emotional eating, offering little 4 and 5 minute tips, strategies, eye roll techniques. I did a 3-day challenge, one on let's stop sweet cravings, let's stop savory cravings, and let's stop starchy carb cravings. And then I retargeted them all with this ad. And they went from the ad, clicked through to a registration page for a webinar. You'll see above the fold, you've got how to finally crush your cravings. On the right side, register here. Below the fold, what you're going to discover, all the benefits that they will actually receive from the webinar, credibility, and then further down as they scroll down. They would click through to register, they would receive confirmation that they'd been registered for the webinar, and they would receive their webinar link. I would then email them. It was usually about a 5-day, 7-day campaign before the webinar, and I would email them in those 5 to 7 days at least 4 times with what we call a stick campaign of fantastic, you've registered for the webinar. Remember, this is what you're going to learn. This is what you're going to get out of it. This is the experience. By the end of the webinar, you will have. So all of the benefits that they were going to receive to remind them how important that webinar was. Yep. Remember to add it to your calendar, all of those things. Rather than just register them, go to the trouble of actually spending money to register them and then just hope they're going to remember to turn up. People are busy. They've got things to do. This was actually a quiz campaign. This is another type of funnel. And again, I did it to the same, I retargeted to the same audience that I had been doing for the lives, where I was doing the emotional eating lives. I retargeted kind of like a split campaign. One I did a webinar and the other I did it through a quiz. And in this, I was actually selling my Emotional Eating Solutions program, the $2,000 program I talked about. So the end result was either from a webinar, I was selling the $2,000 program, or from a conversation. And this campaign, the quiz campaign, was far more successful than the webinar campaign as far as financial return. However, the quiz campaign nearly killed me because it was so successful and it needed so much of my one-on-one time that in the end I nearly lost my PA from it because she was trying to schedule the appointments. And then people would schedule the appointments. I might have 30 appointments scheduled for the week, and then you'd have, I can't come here, or I can't. And then she was moving appointments around. She was trying to ring them to confirm. They were cancelling here, shifting it there. And she nearly walked away from me after years of working with me and being so dedicated to me. And I was like, okay, I'll stop the campaign. I'm so sorry. And incredibly successful. We ended up with about, in a period of 6 weeks, we ended up with about 80 new people on the program, which at $2,000, we were selling it for $2,000 then plus GST, so it was 2,200 on a payment plan. So they had to pay, I think it was $400 deposit, and then they paid it off on a monthly basis. So we ended up with about 80 new people on the program, but it nearly killed us doing it that way. Because you'd have the conversation, and often there was also a follow-up conversation because I have to speak to my husband, or I have to, But also the program was a difficult program to sell because most women, and it was targeted to women, don't want to tell their husbands that their eating challenge has got as bad as it has. Or they've spent so much on weight and weight loss in the past that they didn't want to tell their husband that they were going to spend it again. But because it was an expensive program, it's not as though it was $99 and they could hide it on the credit card bill. The husband was going to find out that there was $2,000 disappeared from the credit card over a couple of months. And so there was a lot of kind of chatting and second conversations, and how are you going to talk about it with your husband, and coaching and counselling on maybe we need to speak to your husband about how serious this has gotten. Because these were some, women that had some very, very serious eating challenges. And I was, do you feel ready to bring your husband into the conversation that he really needs help with, that you really need help with this? So it became a very, very stressful marketing campaign. Might have been successful financially, but my God, it was very, very stressful and nearly killed me and Trish. Cool. So it just gives you an example that just because it's successful financially doesn't actually mean it's successful. So now when I use this, and I don't use it very often because campaigns burn out, so I usually run a campaign for maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and then I switch it off, and then I'll start with something else, and then come back to it at maybe 4, 5, 6 months later with a slight tweak or a different image or something like that as well. So now if I run this, I don't do it to a conversation. It normally goes quiz, to an email nurturing campaign, to a 3-part free video series that they watch themselves. And then at the end of the 3-part video series, they get taken through to the sales page for the program. And I've changed the payment plan to just $99 a month for 12 months. So I've actually reduced the program to, if they buy it through that system, to $11.88 a month or $99 a month from this particular campaign. And it sells now as a breeze without my physical input. Do you see the difference? Like, I could have kept going with the other one and it probably would have got 80 people a month on the program. Oh my God, that's a pretty, $160,000 a month. Woo, are we happy with that? Yeah. No, we're not. oh my God, that's not the kind of business I wanted to create. And I did try and outsource those conversations, and the sales rate dropped. I was getting about a 1 in 3 close, and the sales rate dropped to about 1 in 10. So the ad spend and the cost per customer went up dramatically because the person didn't understand the nuances. They weren't, even though they understood my work and they'd done my programs before, they didn't understand the nuances of connecting to that customer, of understanding, and they wanted to speak to the person that was going to be running it. And so if I'm not going to do those one-on-one conversations, I can't use that conversation campaign in that format. I had to adapt it. This was the quiz, so they actually literally clicked on the ad for the quiz and they went straight through. It was 27 questions. 21 of the questions were relatable to a very specific 7 categories. So one was, I was a boredom eater, one was a addictive eater, one was a comfort eater, there was the social eater, the one that just has to have more because some of their friends are. A stress eater, somebody who was very, very stressed and would choose food. And so we broke it down into 7 categories, and the other 4 were just general interest questions I wanted to ask that weren't connected to the scoring, that helped me understand more about that person before I worked with them. And they would receive immediately their results broken down into the 7 categories. So they would score on a scale of 0 to 15. If they were from 0 to 5, it would be low. It wasn't a particularly stressful eating pattern or trigger for them. If they were, 10 and above, it was a high. And we gave them tips and strategies there and then that they could go to my YouTube channel and watch some videos or things like that. Okay, so not only was it a quiz, but it was also a great lead magnet. Why it was so successful is because I was actually giving them good value after as well. I wasn't trying to sell them something. I wasn't trying to say, buy my shit straight away. I was actually saying, here's a quiz. If you really are challenged with this in your life, let's do the quiz. I'm going to give you a couple of suggestions and solutions and a couple of videos to go and watch to see if that will help. And they were actually craving control videos. So I gave away my stuff. Yeah. And so I would get people emailing me just from that saying, oh, thank you, that really helped. I stopped a sugar craving last night, or I didn't eat the chocolate last night. So they're already starting to see results. And then, of course, they get an email from me 2 days later going, how'd you go with the quiz results? Is there anything you'd like to share with me? Or if you want to give me drop me an email, we can have a discussion. If you need some help, you can always go to my YouTube channel or my Facebook page. I often do extra free craving control techniques on my Facebook page. Please join me there. And just kept nurturing them over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Each second email had an offer at the end of the email. If you do think you need help with this, please click here, and it took them to a sales page for the Emotional Eating Solutions course. Make sense? Without doing it with one-to-one calls. Oh my God. This was a 3-part video series opt-in that I did. And I didn't really advertise this much. I'm trying to think whether I did. I did on LinkedIn. I don't think I did it on Facebook much. I mainly put this into articles and into industry journals because it was for hypnotherapists and counsellors and psychotherapists and things. And so I put it into industry journals, and it went through to a very, very informative blog article, which was more than an article. It was actually a mini ebook. It was very, very long, and it talked about the technology. It talked about kind of the business plan. It talked about the glossary of terms that if you didn't know much about digital marketing, if you were confused what a funnel was, or if you were confused what a hashtag was and what it did, it kind of explained those basic terms and things. And that was very successful as well. I don't know why I never advertised it. I maybe need to go back to that at some point and have a look at it. But that just, and then again, it just went to below the fold what they actually saw. That was their delivery. So they'd receive 1 video at a time each day. So the first day when they signed up, they'd get their first video, they'd watch it. On day 2, they'd receive an email saying, thanks for watching video 1, here's video 2. If you're interested in the full course, you can click on this link. Don't remember, video 3 is coming tomorrow. Next day, video 3 would arrive, and there would also be a link to say, if you are interested in the full program, you can click here, and it would take them through to the sales page. Okay, there was an email campaign and things that went with it as well. I want you to think about this in terms of chatbots. everything that we've talked about so far can be delivered in this format, or it can be transferred straight into a chatbot. Now, with a chatbot, if you were doing a 3-part video series, you couldn't deliver it. There's nothing in chatbot yet that you can actually program it to deliver each day, okay? It has to be programmed by the choice of the person in Messenger. So if you send them to the landing page, you run an ad, and the ad, when they click through the ad, it actually opens up in Messenger instead of onto the landing page. And in Messenger, it takes them through a sequence that says, blah, 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 the first video, the videos are about blah, blah, blah. Probably a video by me saying, this, thank you, welcome to the 3-part video series. If you click the button below, your first video will arrive in your inbox now. So they click the button below, which means they've now subscribed to you. They're then given the option of either at any time by clicking or typing in opt out, you'll stop receiving this. They watch the video and then it automatically gives them the second video straight away. So it can't be sort of programmed for tomorrow. And then they get the option, would you like to watch video 2 now? And they click either yes or opt out. And then once they watch video 2, would you like to watch video 3 now? And the option of yes or opt out. So the same kind of sequence can be programmed into a chatbot as well. Does that make sense? Yeah? And works very well and delivers faster than an email one, doesn't it? Because the email one's over 3 days. And did they go to their email? Did they watch it that day? Did they forget? Whereas this is instant. They're in the mood, they're hot, they've just seen your ad, they've clicked through, they get the first video, within 5 minutes they've watched all 3 videos. So they're now kind of warm, aren't they? If they've watched all 3, they've stuck with you. But I never ran this in Chatbot, I haven't run it in Chatbot as yet, so that would be interesting to try that out. Any questions about those funnels? Or any others that you've heard of? Any that you've done that you think are worth discussing as well?
I love funnels. I'm absolutely addicted to funnels.
Can I let them in on the big secret? And he's going, oh shit, what's the big secret?
Oh no, I'd love you too.
She doesn't know. Annie is the mother of a gentleman by the name of Chris Murray. And would you like to talk about who your son is and the fact that you taught him? You started him out?
We'll back up just a couple of years. So Chris went off to uni and did a graphic design degree. And he'd grown up in a Photoshop because Mum was there, so he had to come there after school. So he grew up using Photoshop. So throughout his degree, he taught the teachers that teach Photoshop how to use Photoshop. Thursday night they paid him to teach them. So he's a clever little bugger. And when I did my first business course and I was then shown funnels, I set up my own funnel and it looked a little bit dodgy. You know, the flashing red buy now buttons. I didn't quite have that, but it wasn't as polished as I wanted. So I said to Chris, can you come around and help me with this funnel? And he said, oh, I don't know what a funnel is, Mum. So he came around and had a look and he went, oh, I think these are a little bit dodgy. I don't know about this, Mum. So trust me, everyone's using them, all the businesses are using them, you know, just help me. So he did it, he made it look a bit prettier. Anyway, he then helped me with the next one and the next one, and he started to see them everywhere. He thought they were web pages where they were actually funnels because he was a website designer. Bug me dead, he entered a ClickFunnels competition 12 months later and he won one of 30 seats. To go to Boise, Idaho with Russell Brunson himself and do a 48-hour funnel hacking live graphic event. So he was chosen as one of the top 30 in the world. When he got there, there was a U-shaped table, and in the middle of the table was one reserved seat with his name on it. And he thought, oh, far out, I'm in trouble. What have I done wrong now? Nobody else had an allocated seat except for Chris. He had to sit in his exact seat. And the reason they did that, because Russell Brunson himself wanted to know who this Chris guy was. So Chris sat down very sheepishly in this seat. Sorry, 1 minute. Give me the floor, Maggie.
I want them to know this because this is the kind of talent that you have around it.
And
it's crazy.
Yeah, so they did a design-a-thon and they all produced 5 funnels each, and Chris won 4 out of those 5 funnels as the best design funnel, and he is now crowned the #1 funnel designer in the world. And Russell Brunson himself has used Chris on at least a dozen projects already for his own personal work, and he also sends all of his friends who need to have their funnels redesigned to Chris. So he's on the personal Rolodex. It doesn't get any better than that.
No.
I reckon this funnel's worth money now, isn't it? Because
Absolutely. I know, I'm sitting back here going, we did that.
this funnel was designed by Chris Murray and Annie Murray.
So
Yeah, that deserves it. Is that one of those things like, you know, I could actually say, I could sell this funnel, and then like Annie would say, where's my commission? But yes, this was actually designed by Annie and Chris. In Chris's early days, he hadn't even at that stage won his first Russell Brunson Award, I think. He hadn't been to Idaho, Boise, Idaho, that one. He hadn't been there yet.
Toronto at the moment. He flew to Toronto. He works with one of the best Facebook marketers on the planet, and he travels overseas once every 2 months to assist him at his 3-day events that are $15,000 each, and they on-sell a $58,000 program, and they can't handle the amount of people they get. And just to have a conversation, just to give you a little bit of grounding of the real value of a properly designed funnel that generates money, because 99% of the people selling funnels are selling funnels because they can't work out how to make money from them.
Yeah.
Okay? So you've got to be very careful who you take advice from. And just to have a conversation with Chris, you're looking at least a $30,000 start for him to build you one funnel. Wow. I'll say it again, it's $30,000 for Chris to build you one funnel.
That's how powerful funnels have become.
That's
and
how.
big companies.
Because if you get it wrong, you won't make money. If you get it right, you've got your own printing machine.
Yep.
And it takes work to get it right.
And isn't it good that we've got a template? Feel a bit cheeky. So, how powerful is that? I've actually got a photograph I saw of him receiving his first $1 million check.
He's had an award, so you get part of the 2 comma club because $1 million has 2 commas. And he's had many clients that they've generated over $1 million with their funnels. And one of them they did with a $30 product, and they did $1 million in 26 days with a $180,000 ad spend. So the return on that, and that included the product, so the rest was profit.
And I wonder if I begged and pleaded and chatted that maybe just once in the 12 months, if we could get Miss Annie and Mr. Chris on a webinar together. Oh my God, wouldn't that be so cool? Oh, that's the sickening thing.
This has just turned 28.
Yes, that's him, 28. And just a gorgeous teddy bear. He's just beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Actually just signed the contract for his first $1.2 million home at age 20.
Oh. And he's got the money to pay for it. Oh, well, there you go. Good on him. And look, he is just so talented, and Annie is so talented, as you saw earlier today. The knowledge that they have is just astounding, and, you know, I get to benefit from that, which is really cool. It's not the only reason I'm friends with you, Annie, really.
Can I just quickly interrupt and say I wouldn't do this for anybody else on the planet. I've never spoken live at a 3-day event. It's only because Maggie has so much integrity that I'll align my brand with hers.
And that you flew up from Melbourne. You've taken 3 days away from your business, and I am so grateful. So grateful. All right. So Anyone think about the types of stuff they've been doing so far where any of those funnels might have been actually quite useful? Anyone want to talk about one or two of them? Anything that you think could have actually really been enhanced by using a system, one that stands out to you? So do you want to run through them again? So you had the PDF to a sales page. That's for more of a high-end product, so you'd be selling a higher priced product with that. But you could do the PDF to low-priced products as well. It doesn't have to be to a sales page. It could just go straight to, a sales letter. It could just go straight to a sales page for something. You had the webinar special, so you actually gather a number of people who want to come to a free webinar and you make an offer on that. You have to give good value. People have become very savvy about webinars, yeah? So this has to be incredible value and it has to feel like a natural flow that if you've given enough value and people really like what you do and they resonate with you, that it feels like an effortless decision to make it. Okay, and there's lots of stuff you need to learn about, having the best offer that you can possibly put together, a no-brainer offer they call it, all of that kind of stuff as well. So that was the webinar one. What about the quiz? Does anyone can imagine creating some kind of little quiz in the industry, in the niche that you work in? Can you see that kind of fitting into I use quizzes all the time. I devised a quiz for Colin and Wendy on the stress and anxiety. And built that quiz for them because they're just so useful. And you can have them automated, or you can just have them as a PDF download where they download and do it themselves. The reason I like to go to the trouble of getting them programmed and make them automated is I get the stats in my computer. So I then later on can do a PhD on this kind of stuff. Does that make sense? So, you get 20,000 people filling in a quiz like this, and you've got some pretty great stats around what's going on in people's minds with food and their relationship to stress, etc. So there's lots of things that you can end up doing with this kind of information. There's other things that you can do, like a competition. You can do a competition funnel. You have to have, obviously, the competition page. Then you have to have the terms and conditions page in Facebook. Facebook will not approve it if it doesn't have the terms and conditions, and there has to be a separate page for that. So the minute they click through, it clicks through to the terms and conditions page, and then the details of the actual competition and the prizes and all of that as well. And that collects a great. And obviously, if your competition is to give away an iPad, yeah, but you don't actually sell iPads, yes, you're going to get thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people apply to your competition, but are they targeted audiences? Yeah, they just want an iPad, yeah? So the prize has to be relevant to what you're actually selling. It has to be relevant to what you're doing in your business. It has to be relevant to the services or products that you're providing, or you're going to get people who are not your target market. Can you add anything else to funnels, Annie, my darling girl?
Just what you said about the terms and conditions and the privacy policy. Facebook have extremely difficult compliance things that you have to be aware of. And if you try and get an ad approved that's leading to a funnel that doesn't have a compliance and a terms and conditions or a privacy, if you're asking people for their email address, your ad will get refused. They'll give you a chance to have it remedied. They don't actually tell you what's wrong, it just gets disapproved. And if you ask too many times without knowing the details, you'll actually lose your ad account and you'll never ever be allowed to advertise on Facebook again. Yeah.
I actually had one of my ad accounts shut down. They did reopen it because I forgot to put the link to my terms and conditions on my landing page. And I just forgot. That it's normally on it, so I just assumed when I transferred one landing page to another that it would have been on there, but it had somehow, the link had got broken. And because it wasn't on there, my Facebook account, the main account I had, and others that I'd used for other things, but my main account for my business page got shut down in the middle of a campaign. Like, what? Oh my God. And I asked for a review. They started it up again within 48 hours once I fixed the landing page. And then somehow or other, the old ad got triggered by mistake, and the ad account got shut down again within 24 hours out of that again. And so in the end, I got to speak to somebody. Nowadays, you can, if you really spend a lot of time researching how on Facebook you can actually get to speak to a Facebook consultant. And I got to speak to a Facebook consultant, and they sat with me. They were actually really good. They sat with me on the phone for about an hour and a half and worked through the problem and fixed it and reapplied from within Facebook to have it reopened, and understood that it was a mistake. The ad shouldn't have gone live again. I'd been trying to delete it and somehow activated it instead of deleting it. Why do you think I used Jenny? Come on, give me a break. So they had shut it down again. And so being shut down that many times in a short period of time, I was very lucky to get it back because it was the main account that I'd always used. So I didn't want to lose the history of all my ads and things. It would have been terrible. So, yeah, but I did get to speak to somebody, and they were extremely helpful. And when they understood the circumstances, they applied, and took about another 36 hours. But I lost 3 or 4 days of advertising in the middle of a campaign, which can be the make and break of a campaign. I think we need to increase the energy. I think we need to remember that we're authors. Let's stand up. Do you get it a little more now? What digital marketing, because it's a term that's bandied around a lot, isn't it? But it's actually, when you understand the kind of intricacies of it, it's actually easier to understand than we actually think it's going to be, and that they're actually systems. And it's always, once you know the systems, everything else falls in around it. You don't need to know how to hook it up unless you want to learn that, unless you're a tech head. But what you do need to know is how it works, so you can ask the people who do hook it up what to do. And it's going to cost you half the amount of time and half the amount of money and half the amount of pain. All right, grab a seat. Because you are authors and you are course developers and you are digital marketers. So I'm going to try and find a couple of my press releases and see if I can get them for you. Oh, actually, here's the beautiful Katina.
Hello, my name's Katina Gleeson. I'm a hypnotherapist and my practice is Focus Hypnotherapy. I remember about 2 years ago opening my emails and finding an email there from Maggie inviting me on a program which one of the outcomes was to write a book. At that stage, I hadn't thought about writing a book.
We all know what email that was now, don't we?
And also Maggie walked
It was the sales letter one, wasn't it?
Yep,
so she clicked on it, it had gone through to a sales letter, and she
really,
received the email
really
about
was.
it.
I had no idea at
There's
that
the funnel
stage
in
what
action.
possibilities might eventuate from writing the book, and possibilities beyond any expectations or thoughts are emerging for me. To run workshops around Australia, which I wouldn't, before writing the book, I wouldn't have dared dream about that. I am so grateful for Maggie. Throughout that whole program, she was incredibly well prepared with the information that she presented to us, and also really available for support one-on-one when I needed it. If anyone there is thinking of working with Maggie or doing any of her programs, I would be so supportive of you doing that. And I wish for you that you have outcomes beyond your expectations as a result. All the best in your ventures.
She's so sweet. Stop. So, offline marketing. Who's had some press before? We've got 2, 3. Yeah? What? Oh, 4. Of course, Annie has had some press. Hello. Would you like to share what happened and how you got it? And
I used to have a business with my ex-husband. It was a motoring business, and I spam emailed the local newspapers on the Sunshine Coast. So I actually got a column in the Noosa News, and I was the regular auto news, motoring news with Sandra Kelly.
Oh, get you.
I used to write about cars. It wasn't my industry, but I was the driver of the business and, the CEO mostly of the business. But I just did my research, but it got us huge exposure for free.
I want everyone to hear that. Sandra, are you a motoring expert? Not at all. Are you a mechanic? Not at all. Are you a designer of cars? No. But she wrote a motoring column that gave her business huge exposure because she did her research to become the expert. Do you get that? Yeah? No reason you can't write a book about a topic that you have a genuine interest in that you don't have the expertise in. I'm not a neuroscientist. I write about neuroscience. Yeah, I just go and get the research because I understand it, and I'm very good at reading really complex research that an academic stands in front of you and you go, all you hear is blah, 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 because they don't know how to translate it to you in real terms. I'm very good at translating it into real language and usable formats and real structure into techniques. That's what I do. I translate neuroscience research into techniques that change your brain. Okay? Whereas a neuroscientist is usually good at doing the research and writing about it in very PhD terms. And so I use experts to help me achieve the outcomes I want to achieve for my end user. You used experts to achieve a growth in your business, and you were perceived on the Sunshine Coast as the motoring expert. Oh my God. How cool is that? So what does that say? The opportunities are endless, absolutely endless. What does it actually mean? What is expertise? What is authority? Expert of the experts, and it is courage, a dash of courage, people's perception, so it's how you put yourself out there to be perceived, and research. Yeah? So if you add the research, the perception, and the dash of courage and confidence, you have expertise, you have authority. And Sandra is just a prime example of that. She had the courage to get on at quite a big big newspaper on the Sunshine Coast. It's the only big paid newspaper. It is a huge boys' club. And she became the motoring expert in a very big boys' club in motoring on the Sunshine Coast, believe me. So huge kudos to you, darling. Absolute kudos. Did you need a dash of courage to do that?
Absolutely. And I mean, also too, I was, as well, I had a husband who didn't believe in it. I'm like, you kidding? Like, I mean, he was like his brains constantly. And I understood the industry very well because I was immersed in the industry. But, he couldn't believe that I would do that. So there was doubting from within as well.
And how did you overcome that? Because you had the person you worked with. Exactly, you just did it. I want you to really hear that. The doubt isn't real, it's just wiring in your brain firing.
Just an off example from that, the one time I did allow his opinion to, just a quick example, do you remember when all the floods went through, because I was writing blogs, and how to identify a flood damaged vehicle, and it got picked up by Channel 7, my blog. Yeah, and get this though, they rang me to be on TV, and I fell for you're my husband, it's your business, I'm just that little, I let the mindset of that relationship pull me down. So I went, well, do you want the spot? But he was too scared to take the spot. He goes, tell them to ring me tomorrow. I went, no, the media spot's today. And we lost the media spot. And that night, Baldy's second-hand car yard was on freaking TV with my story.
Yeah. Do you get it? Absolutely. You should be a bit miffed. We need to let go of the miffed, though.
I had the mindset of him, I listened to the doubt.
And would you ever listen to that doubt again? Never. You think about it, for when I went in a cab from a awards in New York, in a cab to Channel 7 studios in New York, and I presented live to air in Australia about somebody else's app. Can you imagine? In the UK, they probably got rang by the TV station and said, would you like to be interviewed about your app? And they went, oh, doubt, no. And somebody they didn't even know on the other side of the world commented on their app and got the kudos for it. Make sense? A touch of what? Courage. A dash of what? Confidence. And it's just perception, how you're perceived with all of that, but also the research. You've got to do the research. You've got to know your stuff, or it all falls apart. So you have to do your due diligence to accept authority. Deal? Oh, so excited. Who else said they had some press? Oh, I can't wait to hear.
I had a friend who was a fabulous PR, and unfortunately Blondie is now passed on. I was her success story at the time. Unfortunately, at the time I was running grammar classes. I also love grammar, and we hit the right combination, and I ended up being a guest speaker or guest slot on Spencer Howson of ABC Radio, morning radio, and he'd bring me in every couple of months and we'd talk about, you know, World Apostrophe Day, etc., etc., and that was magic.
I love it. Oh my God. Is there a comma day? I have to know, is there a World Comma Day?
I will find out.
Oh my God, I love commas. I love commas. What about, what's that? Is it ellipses where you have ...
Yes.
Is there a World Ellipsis Day?
We'll find out.
Grammarly keeps telling me I use too many unnecessary ellipses, and I go, Grammarly, you know what? I love it.
It's always just a suggestion. And unfortunately, I didn't have the courage to make use of that. But I did get a lot of it, and because it was ABC, I wasn't able to say specifically what my business was about, etc., etc. But Spencer did get a lot of, oh, can we get Aunt Em? And that was my persona at the time. Can we get Aunt Em back? And that was magic. But I still didn't find a way to capitalise that and actually put bums on seats to go into grammar courses. It's not sexy, but you know, it's something that.
But you can make it sexy with the right language. You can make anything sexy with the right language.
And the other spin-off from that was I had a lot of work. I was also with Aunt Em, where I involved myself with youngsters and the texting and, you know, the acronyms that they use, etc., etc. And I was on Channel 9 as the sociolinguistics expert on texting and giving assistance to parents when they didn't know what the kids were talking about.
Oh my God.
Fought with the producer to have my business name and they wouldn't let me.
On which station was it?
Channel 9.
And on what show?
It was a Channel 9 news at 6 o'clock. So, you know, they restricted me, and even to this day I regret not having met Maggie by that time, and I didn't make the best use of that. Yes, I have that slot, those 2 slots on my website, but it doesn't mean anything because I'm not, you know, I haven't built the structure around it.
It's actually a great point because, and it's probably great to share with everyone, because in that circumstance, because there are some stations and the government-funded stations especially, news especially, that will not put out your website. They will not, ABC stations won't, especially ABC National, I've been on that a number of times, they won't put out your website. But the way that you get around that is that you make a free offer of something incredibly valuable to their listeners or to their readers. So it can be, they can have a free, I don't know what you could have given away at the time, but it could have been like a free booklet on whatever it was, and that the ABC could give it away on their website, and you had your link inside and your website inside the giveaway. I know.
I've done an ebook that says LOL does not mean lots of love. Because it didn't.
No.
Chris and I didn't. I also Chris Brown on when it, you know, whatever the thing was, he was saying he understood it to be lots of love, and he was sending off these lovely emails and letters to his patients and the death of his patients to his owners, and he said, I was signing it LOL.
Oh my God!
Lots of love, until he got it bounced back, and I almost rang him up and said, Chris, here's my ebook, No Courage.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Lost opportunities!
Absolutely, but it is what it is. We learn from our mistakes, but if you get any opportunity where you are not allowed to give your details out, make sure you have a little lead magnet that is not about you. It is about their audience, and it has your details in it. That's why every book I write, every ebook, every little lead magnet always has my websites, my links, every blog I write, it has a link to something free all of the time that is hooked up to my database. Yep. So, and I've had ABC interviews again and again and again, and I always give something. I give them my book, or I give them the latest MP3 or something. Whatever it's relevant to the story, I actually give something away that has my details in it, and they'll put it on their website. They won't mention yours if it's a non-commercial station, but they'll put it on theirs. And you might not get as much as going on Sunrise, as many inquiries, but you will still get some. Well done. That's really cool, though. Oh, my God. But you see how you could capitalise differently?
I have some friends that are hypnotherapists, and they like to wear a T-shirt with their business name.
Yeah.
So could they happen to wear that T-shirt while they're on TV?
Of course they could. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If that's how they wanted to be presented. Yeah, absolutely. What I did was I actually took, when we were on Sunrise with Unzip, and it had been in the news a couple of months before that Samantha had problems with weight and problems with eating and stuff. And so I took a free copy of the book for Samantha, and a signed copy of the book, and a couple of spare copies to leave in the green room for any guests that arrived. Yeah. My card's in it. My email, in my book, I actually have a link that they can go to my website and download a free CPR brain training kit. So there's always ways to get, even if somebody buys my book on Amazon, if somebody buys your book from your website, you get the details. If they buy your book from Amazon, you have no idea who they are. You'll never know who that person is. So you must have some kind of link to an opt-in inside your book, so that if whoever opens it and reads it, whether it's an ebook, a Kindle, or a paperback, that there's a link to get the details back to you. You might miss a lot of them, yeah, but you'll get some of them. That's how actually I got the A-lister actress in Hollywood, that she actually had put her details on to register for my CPR brain training kit. It had come back to, I didn't know who she was. It had come back to my database, and she'd been on my database for years. I'd sent out an email, at some point 3 years later, saying I was offering for my 15-year anniversary for one of my clinics, I was offering a package of one-on-ones at the 15-year ago price. And she responded to that, yeah, and said, oh yeah, I've been on your database for years. I've been watching your emails and watching who you are. And it was because she bought my book and registered through the book. Make sense? Cool. Who else? Somebody else said they had press.
Many moons ago, there was in Victoria, I became the expert in herbs. And every week I wrote a little about a particular herb. But I called myself Lily, not Gabrielle. Nobody knew who I was. So I was in a health food store once, and I think I had just written about chamomile. And the guy behind the counter said to me, he said, I wish I know who Lily is. Every time she writes about a herb, the shop is full the people who want to buy this herb. And that scares me so much that I stopped writing. Because I felt the responsibility of writing something wrong was so great that I
So you didn't tell him who you were?
no.
Oh my God.
I wish I would have known you.
I wish I could come down and give you a hug. Can I? Oh my God. I think I'm coming to you. Do you see how it's about courage? Yeah? Do you think the first time I got asked to go on a current affair, or on that I wasn't packing what's for a current affair, because you know what a current affair does, don't you? When they asked me to go on, I was like, oh, do I really want to go on a current affair? But I had to dig deep and find a touch of courage. I had to find a touch of research as well, make sure I knew my stuff. And they came and did a full day of interviewing myself and another client of mine. And I had no idea. I had to put the trust in the gods and just trust that my integrity came across in what I was interviewed, my authenticity, and I just had to trust that they would be kind to that. And it was a wonderful, wonderful interview, and it went to air, and it was fabulous, absolutely fabulous. But it had to take the courage. Imagine if I'd said no to that. Same as Sunrise. I had never been on, that was pre-recorded. We had a whole day of filming, yeah? The next call I got was to go live to air at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning on Sunrise in Sydney. Do you think I was packing it? Yeah? Absolutely, absolutely. And I had no idea what to expect. I'd never been on national live. I'd done a lot of pre-recorded stuff. Happy to do as much pre-recorded stuff as you want because they'll edit it. Or they can stop and restart re-recording again. The current affairs segment was about 8 minutes long, and it was literally a 12-hour shoot. And they got 8 minutes of footage out of that. So they just edit stuff. Whereas a live, you're on for 4 minutes, and you've got 4 minutes. Every word you say has to count. And what if they ask you a question that you don't know the answer to? All of that kind of stuff came up in my head. And, you know, you talk about not being prepared. I wasn't prepared for the impact. When A Current Affair went to air, I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe, you know, we'll get a lot of orders in, it'll be pretty crazy, da-da. It wasn't that much. Like, we got, I don't know, a couple of hundred orders or something like that. It wasn't huge. It wasn't what I expected it to be. And so when I got asked to go on Sunrise, I was thinking, oh, it's kind of going to be probably like that. I didn't really think about it too much. But it was before the days that I had landing pages. It was before the days that I realised that you should have, you know, a free giveaway, or apart from the book, I had in the giveaway in the book. But I didn't have an offer to give them on air. I didn't have a landing page for people to go to. And I didn't even think to prepare my website for so much traffic all at once. My website crashed. I didn't think to prepare my phone to have a different answering service, because all I had was my mobile phone that was given out, and my inbox was full within 2 seconds flat. The show was still going to air live, and my inbox was full, so people were getting messages saying, this inbox is full, this inbox is full, this inbox is full, this inbox is full. And so if they found their way to my website, the website was given out, but if they did find my way to the website, I got the orders in. But I realised by the time we got back to the hotel, which was, say, about 11:30 in the morning, and I opened up my laptop and there were just all these orders in my laptop, and I'm thinking, oh my God. And I had 2 or 3 calls on my phone, on my admin manager's phone, saying, from our web guide, saying that our website had crashed and what was going on, and da-da-da. I'm going, oh my God, was I supposed to do something? And when we realised that the messages, Trish was then trying to download the messages, and she realised that the message bank was full. So we just had to clear the message bank every 4 or 5 minutes. We were going in to clear the message bank for about 7 hours after the show went air. Unbeknownst to us, when they have a segment that's popular, that segment gets replayed a couple of times over the next week. Oh my God, it was replayed at 6 a.m. one morning. I had no idea, and it went national at 6 a.m. in the morning, and the same thing happened. I hadn't figured it was like 3 days later, the same thing happened. I had no idea, absolutely no idea. So I'm in Sydney with Trish. Michael was at home in Cairns. We were living in Cairns at the time, and I'm ringing him saying, here's another 30 orders, here's another, quick, post them out, post them out, post them out. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. Had no expectation. I remember when I got back to Cairns, and I took hundreds of books at a time to the post office in my car, and then I'd say, I'll be back in a minute, and I'd go home. 10 minutes later, I'm back with another 100 books, and she'd be going, what are you doing? And I said, oh no, can I buy a box of envelopes, please? I go, no. Oh my God, hundreds of books. It's crazy. I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't have the systems in place. And, you know, if you ever decide you want to go on that kind of show, you've got to be prepared to gather those leads. You know, yes, I got as many as I possibly could, but I probably wasted half the leads by not being able to capture them. Make sense? And how many did I miss when the website crashed? Who knows how many tried to get on and buy it and didn't then, and then got busy and didn't come back.
How do you know what capacity your website has?
Speak to your web people about that. Yeah, just to make sure that it's got a big enough bandwidth and can actually cope with the amount of traffic coming to it. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Sort of. There's no sort of. Just own it, girl. I don't care if it was in the local community news, it's press.
Was the local community radio station. Not quite sure how we even got in contact with them, but he said we were doing a workshop in Bathurst, and he said, oh, come into the studio and I'll interview you live. And then when I went in, he said, are you in a hurry? We'll just keep playing the show, and every break we'll chat to you. So
yes, please.
Good. But another time, I was invited to be on Insight on the ABC, And yeah, I kind of got cold feet and hesitated getting back to them. They wanted me to go on with someone who had had success quitting smoking, or a couple, you know, and someone said to me, oh, be careful going on that show, and I was like, and I was kind of slow getting back to them, and they said, oh no, we found someone else. So,
So what would you do? What would you do now?
have more courage.
And you'd ring Maggie and say, Maggie, I've been invited on Insight. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Can I put your mind at rest about something? Those big shows, who thinks they're scripted? Totally. Yeah? I didn't realize it. I didn't realize that Sunrise, the minute I said yes, everything went kind of crazy. Same as the one from New York, the Daily Edition. By the time I got to New York, the questions were in my inbox. I could prepare my answers. Yeah? Sunrise. We were booked on the Thursday. We were to be in Sydney for Tuesday morning live to air. Thursday afternoon, we received the questions in our inbox and we got to prepare our answers. And Samantha Armitage, to her credit, stuck to the questions. She tweaked it slightly towards the end. The last two questions were kind of pulled together because they obviously realized they were running out of time. And so the end of it was a little bit different to what I was expecting, but I was so confident. We'd been on air for a couple of minutes by that time. My nerves had come down and I was feeling quite confident, and I just kind of went with the flow. But honestly, I was as nervous as anything. And poor Trish, who's never done anything like this, and Trish was on air with me because she had lost over half her body weight using my unzip process. And so she'd gone from 156 kilos down to about 75 kilos. So completely different woman, a totally different woman in her mindset, in her health, everything in total. And she kept the weight off for over 3 years. So they were wanting to interview the successful applicant as well. So the day before the show, they wanted us to arrive in Sydney the day before, and they wanted to interview Trish by herself. So they took Trish off to Hyde Park and interviewed her walking in her activewear, along Hyde Park. So she was very kind of jaunty in her activewear, and interviewed her there, and then sitting down or standing beside a tree or something. And then they used it. Remember I said they like B-rolls. So they like to have the live interview, but they like to have footage to cut away from, because people sitting on a chair being interviewed is boring to the visual, to the person watching television. So they needed stuff while the conversation was going on. They needed imagery to cut away to. So they actually had Trish being interviewed at first before we went to air. So it's the interview started by Trish saying, them interviewing her and talking about her journey. Then it cut to us, and we asked the first couple of questions, and then it cut away while we were continuing to talk to Trish walking along in Hyde Park, being in her activewear, and feeling all excited and talking about the fact that she'd never have dreamed of being on national television in her activewear. They like variety and visual, and that's the key. But it's all scripted. And everything that they do on those big shows is to the minute, to the second. So it really is okay to let go of your fears around it, because you get plenty of time, usually 3 or 4 days, to rehearse, to do some tapping or do some of your therapy work, to let go of the nerves and the jitters around it as well. So as you can see, that offline marketing is just as full of opportunities as online marketing. And a lot of us have got into this digital age where all of our attention is only on online marketing. But we cannot forget the importance of offline marketing as well, like getting press, even just becoming the go-to person in your local community. Having a local radio station just want you on every couple of weeks, or a local newspaper having a little column in it. All of that stuff is really, really important for your credibility, not only locally for your clinic, but then transfers into a national awareness as well, which is really, really important. Okay. So it's all about TV, radio, newspapers, free papers, the local papers. They're crying out for content. And so if you can supply really good content to them regularly, you're not going to say you get in every time, but if they know that they can look forward to relying on the fact you're going to send them an article once a month, they might not use it for a couple of months, and then all of a sudden they're short on copy, and they go, oh, we've got that kind of stock in there. She's been sending them for ages, and you've been calling every now and then just going, say, hi, I'm such and such. Remember, I've sent you a press release, or I've sent you an article, and they're in the back of the mind. And then all of a sudden you end up appearing without knowing it. And it's about having the courage and that combination of confidence, and of course doing your research as well. Community radio stations are another wonderful opportunity because they are your local market as well. And of course, print magazines. I've been in countless, I can't remember how many, and I'll show you some resources and sources where you can do this. So I actually have my PA looking for, on these resources, looking for the journalists who are looking for people to be interviewed. So there'll be, there's particular sites that will actually call out for, we're writing an article on XYZ, we're looking for people who have done XYZ. And so you can then send in your notes and they'll ring you if they're interested in doing a story. So I've ended up in Take 5 twice because of that, Women's Day twice because of that, Women's Weekly once because of those kinds of things. I've ended up in Women's Health and Fitness magazine because of that. So those kinds of things are very, very useful as well. So obviously locally, we're looking at all the free magazines, free newspapers. Do your research in your local area. Who are they? What are they? Paid newspapers and magazines, community radio. Never forget your community radio. You can get on community radio because they're always looking for relief. A lot of them are volunteers and they're sick and tired. They want some free time. Yeah. So if you can actually get on and have a regular segment, they might be really, really pleased to give you a half an hour a week or a half an hour a month. Okay. Local TV stations, always, if something's happening in your world, then always send a press release to your local version of Channel 7 News, Channel 10 News, Channel 9 News, because you could end up on the local news. They will literally come down that morning and interview you, and you can be on the local news that night. That's happened a couple of times for me. When I flew back from New York and I'd won the award, I just rang my local Channel 7 in Cairns, local Channel 7, Channel 10 and Channel 9, and 7 and 10 covered me that afternoon. I was on the local news. Yeah. Just courage. Just courage. That's all it is. National, you've got obviously magazines, radios, organisational newsletters. Look at the organisations that your service or product is suitable to and develop relationships with the person who's writing the organisation's newsletters. Think outside of the box with what press coverage is, okay? If these are your target market, I'll give you an example with our Beaumont Tiles business. We have the local Sunshine Coast Council gets applications for people doing renovations, yes? They have a little package that they send out to anyone who applies for permits to have their house renovated or extended. And so we asked to go in their newsletter package that they send out to these people. So it's free advertising for us, is it not? Yeah. So this is an organisation that's already sending out a package. We're offering value to them that goes in their package. And it's information about tile ranges, it's education about indoor tiles versus outdoor tiles, blah, 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 blah. So we're giving great information, how to size, if you need tiles for your outdoor patio, how to measure that up, how to blah, 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 how many tiles, how many meters you'll need. All of that kind of stuff is what we're providing in that pack. Do you think we're more likely to get the business than Joe Blow tiles down the road? Yeah, absolutely. So that is offline marketing that hasn't actually cost us online spending. It hasn't cost us, time to organise. We just knew that they were doing that. We'd done our research and we applied to actually be put in it. And I think it cost, we had to apply to Beaumont's to get permission to do it. And I think it did, they let us put flyers in it as well, and to put the flyers, we asked to do that, and I think to put the flyers in it, it was about $1,500 to add our flyer as well as the information. So and that's for 12 months. For 12 months, anyone who applies for a extension to their house gets our information. So think outside of the box in your industry. What organisations are their customers, are their staff and their customers suitable to you, and see if they do an industry flyer and whether you can provide a regular monthly article that's about their audience, about their staff or their customers. Make sense? So with offline media, the world is your oyster. It's just being creative and thinking outside of the box. Actually, we are going to break for lunch now. I've got lots and lots of stuff to go through with more specific ideas for targeting specific journalists as well. So we'll break for lunch and we'll be back here at around 3:45. And we'll see you in 30 minutes. It's now just before 4:15, so we'll see you just before 3:45 for the last segment of the day. Oh my God.